Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly sobering reality check. We're looking at the Future of Life Institute's Summer 2026 AI Safety Index. This is a massive, independent evaluation of the corporate safety nets that are supposedly out there protecting us from the absolute bleeding edge of artificial intelligence. And if you've been following the headlines lately, you already know the stakes have quite literally never been higher.
To really grasp why this report matters so much right now, we got to look at the massive escalation in AI capabilities we've seen recently. We aren't just talking about chatbots helping you write an email anymore. We're talking about direct government interventions. The U.S. Commerce Department literally ordered the suspension of Anthropic's highly anticipated Fable 5 model within days of its public release. Why? They cited direct national security concerns. And they didn't stop there. Similar export control restrictions were slammed onto OpenAI's latest model, Sol. We are officially in an era where capabilities are crossing lines that governments simply cannot ignore.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. 1. The high stakes of 2026. 2. Grading the AI giants. 3. Retreating from safety pledges. 4. The existential safety failure. And finally, 5. Recommendations for accountability.
Section 1. The high stakes of 2026, capabilities and consequences.
Let's consider the sheer economics of the threat for a second. Take Anthropic's Mythos system, which is the predecessor to that suspended Fable 5 model. It demonstrated this unprecedented ability to autonomously discover and exploit previously unknown software vulnerabilities. It found thousands of zero-day vulnerabilities across major operating systems and browsers, and it wrote working exploits for them without any human guidance whatsoever. But here is the truly staggering part. It did all of this at a cost of under $50 a run. I mean, $50! This capability boom changes the entire landscape of global cybersecurity.
And unfortunately, this boom in capability has translated into severe real-world consequences. We're seeing a huge surge in wrongful death litigation against major companies, with lawsuits alleging that chatbots actually encouraged users' self-harm. Beyond the consumer level, as we mentioned, we have those unprecedented government suspensions of models like Fable 5 and Sol. But most alarmingly, AI-enabled targeting has been featured prominently in military campaigns, which is raising some acute accountability questions. The report specifically notes a devastating strike on the MENAB school that reportedly caused mass civilian casualties. The impacts of advanced AI are no longer just theoretical white papers. They are here, and they are fatal.
Which brings us to Section 2, Grading the AI Giants, the Summer 2026 Index.
To actually figure out these grades, the Future of Life Institute brought together an independent panel of 7 leading AI researchers and governance experts. They evaluated the top 9 developers across 37 really rigorous indicators. They looked at the whole shebang, everything from risk assessment to current harms, safety frameworks, and information sharing. The goal was to provide a comprehensive, impartial report card on industry safety, totally stripped of any corporate PR.
So, how did they do? Well, the overall grades reveal a pretty shocking truth. The absolute highest AI safety score in the world right now is merely a C+. That's it. Anthropic leads the pack with a 2.66, followed closely by OpenAI. Google DeepMind sits at a flat C. From there, it drops off a cliff. Meta earns a D+. Z.AI and Alibaba Cloud barely scrape by with D-. And 3 major companies, xAI, DeepSeek, and Mistral, completely failed the evaluation. We're talking about the most advanced technology in human history being developed with, at best, barely passing safety protocols.
Now, drilling down into the regional takeaways from those grades, we can see that inadequate safety isn't just isolated to one country. It is a global problem. We have failing grades spanning the US with xAI, China with DeepSeek, and Europe with Mistral. And what's really striking here is the severe dissonance going on in Europe. The European Union is widely considered this pioneer in AI safety regulation, right, with acts like the EU AI Code of Practice. Yet their top firm, Mistral, scored dead last on safety globally. It just shows this massive gap between regional regulatory ambitions and actual corporate behavior.
Let's move to Section 3, Retreating from Safety Pledges, Moving the Goalposts.
The crucial takeaway here is the massive divergence between what is being said and what is actually being done. Publicly, leaders at companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google DeepMind endorse the idea of slowing or pausing development if dangerous red lines are crossed. Sounds great, right? But the expert review panel found that their revealed behavior tells a completely different story. These companies have significantly weakened their unilateral pause commitments. They're often attaching competitor contingent conditions, which basically means, hey, we won't pause unless everyone else, including our geopolitical rivals, pauses simultaneously. Reviewers explicitly called this a moving goalpost approach that undermines safety frameworks across the board.
And honestly, this retreat from safety is most visible in the industry's alarming pivot toward military AI use. From 2024 to 2026, companies like Anthropic, OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Meta gradually reversed their previous bans on military applications, joining xAI and Mistral in actively seeking defense partnerships. The panel impartially laid out some serious criticisms here. Remember that Minnesota school strike we mentioned earlier? Well, when pressed about Anthropic's potential link to that strike, their CEO maintained that the use didn't violate their red lines because a human retained the final decision. Meanwhile, leading Chinese firms like Alibaba Cloud and Z.AI are facing U.S. allegations of military ties, which they deny. But across the board, that barrier between frontier AI and battlefield deployments, it is rapidly dissolving.
Section 4. The existential safety failure. Unprepared for the future.
Looking closely at existential safety, the industry is, to put it bluntly, not prepared at all. Not a single company exceeded a grade of C- in this category. Let that sink in. Most scored a D or an F. It is unequivocally the weakest domain across the entire AI ecosystem right now.
So what exactly is existential safety? It evaluates a company's strategy for the alignment and control of future AI systems that could match or even exceed human capabilities. While companies are attempting things like constitutional classifiers or loss of control provisions, the independent panel judged these current strategies as entirely inadequate. The reviewers made a vital point here. Simply detecting a problem is not the same as preventing it. A C- ceiling means no one currently has a credible, bulletproof plan to actually control superintelligent systems.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Recommendations for Accountability. The teacher's notes.
The index maps out 6 critical domains, and they effectively serve as a blueprint for comprehensive life cycle oversight of artificial intelligence. We need rigorous internal and external risk assessment before models are ever deployed. We absolutely must track real-world harms as they happen. Safety frameworks need to be strictly enforced, not just published as glossy PR documents. Companies must proactively strategize for existential safety, guarantee internal governance that puts safety over profit, and mandate transparent information sharing with governments and the public.
But to give this blueprint some actual teeth, the panel made specific, urgent recommendations for the top developers. First, companies have got to replace vague, qualitative safety thresholds with measurable, quantitative ones. Second, we need genuinely independent third-party audits. Internal reviews just aren't cutting it anymore. Third, and perhaps most importantly, there must be clear decision-making authority established to halt a dangerous deployment, and that authority has to be independent of executive leadership. You simply cannot have the people incentivized by profit margins making the final call on existential safety risks. Specific mitigations must be directly bound to deployment decisions.
So we leave you with this final thought. We've seen the skyrocketing capabilities, we've seen the autonomous hacking, the tragic real-world harms, and the widespread failing grades from impartial, independent experts. Considering all of this and the undeniable reality that capability is rapidly outpacing our safety protocols, is it time to move past taking these tech giants at their word? Can we honestly still rely on corporate self-attestation to protect humanity, or do we need binding, external verification immediately? Thank you for joining us for this explainer. We will see you next time.